Hello, my name is Jamie. Welcome to the 7th episode of Create This Book Too. So let's just get started. So the first page says, create beauty out of ugliness. Choose something you think is ugly, find a way to make it beautiful. What I first started doing is I got a separate piece of paper to make sure that it doesn't bleed through the page, and I started sketching a lotus pod for something that is ugly. So the ugly thing that I'm kind of doing is centered around triphobia. I don't have it, but I also don't like looking at things that remind me of it. It's perfect since it's not one of my actual fears, but it is something that I think is pretty ugly. Sorry if you have triphobia or if you just don't like looking at things that have a bunch of holes in them. You can skip to the timestamp right here. I don't think my drawing looks very realistic, but I totally understand. I started outlining with my microns. To make it less ugly, I wanted to add a lot of nice imagery, so like rainbows, flowers, and stuff like that. Lotus pods are associated with lotus flowers, which are actually like really beautiful. Like their colors are super nice and then they just look really pretty. So I wanted to draw a bunch of those as well. Then I did, that was a weird drum roll, okay, anyways. Then I did watercolor. I first colored in the flower and then the lotus pod. I kind of wanted the flower to be around it, almost like the lotus pod was like the center coming out of it, because I thought if I just surrounded it with like beautiful stuff, it would just become more beautiful with everything. And then another way I tried to make it less ugly was to also make the colors better. I think another reason why it adds to the ugly factor is that it's like a disgusting brown color. To try and fix this, I tried to make the colors changing from yellow, orange, and then to pink. I think it definitely helps because the colors kind of distract from the triphobia, or at least I think it does. So finally, I added more depth with more layers, just for some more shadows and stuff like that. For the background, I colored it blue for the water and also blue for the sky. And then also just added some general finishing touches, just a little bit more color, a little bit more shadows. I glued it in, added some more of the details to the instructions, and I was done. I really like how it turned out. I was worried that the sky would be a little bit too similar in color with the water, but I feel like since I added that darker ombre, it works. I also really like how the flower breaks the border in between the pages. I personally think I did a pretty good job and I beautified the lotus pods. I honestly just might be desensitized to triphobia after staring at so many reference pictures. Let me know in the comments, do you think I made them prettier or are you still scared of them? I mean, obviously if you have triphobia, some random girl trying to beautify it is probably not going to fix that. But I think I made them look better and a little bit less frightening. So the next page says, create ugliness out of beauty. Choose something you think is beautiful, find a way to make it ugly. So I first printed out a bunch of famous paintings and then I started to cut it out. So I decided to ruin, in quotation marks, a couple of famous paintings by doodling over them. This is in no way trying to disrespect these paintings. In contrast, I actually chose them because I thought they were extremely renowned and beautiful. But for the sake of the page, I was going to mess them up. So the paintings that I printed out, I mainly wanted to use portraits because that would be more fun to doodle over. And then they were the Mona Lisa, Lady with the Ermine, a Girl with a Pearl Earring, American Gothic, the Scream, and the Swing, but I didn't end up using the Scream and the Swing. My poor laser printer couldn't handle the detail in the swing, so that just didn't really come out looking too hot. Also, the way I doodled over the Scream just didn't turn out that good, so I just scrapped it. So I first started sketching out what I wanted to draw. I used a red paint pen and also a white paint pen for speech bubble and other details, and I did these steps with all other paintings, like sketch, then paint pens. So I wanted to turn the paintings into something more comedic and childish by adding some dumb jokes and changing their expressions. The small paint pen that was more of like a pinkish red ran out of ink, so I switched to my red Posca. This was a little bit difficult because the red Posca has like a 3mm tip, whereas the other paint pen that I was using had a much smaller tip. After I started outlining with the red Posca, I realized it would be kind of weird if only like 2 of the paintings had the red Posca, so I used that and I colored all of the paintings. Finally, I did some extra coats with the paint pens. So I'm just gonna explain a little bit what's going on in each of these paintings. So for the Lady in the Ermine is saying, "Let me go!" And then the lady's like looking all evil like with a mustache. For the Mona Lisa, she's crying with cat ears and she's saying, "My anime boy died." So next, I turned the girl with pearl and earrings into a TikTok gal, or an e-girl, or whatever, and she's holding her phone while saying renegade, renegade. For the American Gothic, the girl is saying, hey, give me food, and the guy's like, yes, honey. As you can tell, these ideas are all pretty weird and out of the ordinary, I guess. I just doodled whatever first came into my mind, so they obviously don't really make a lot of sense. After putting them all on the page, I realized it looked a little bit plain, so what I decided to do is I started cutting up paper that would match my color scheme. In my trusted IKEA magazine, I found pages that had colors that were red, black, white, and gray to match my color scheme. After I arranged the paper behind all the paintings and I found something that I really liked, I glued everything in and then I added some finishing touches with my Posca pen. So my final thoughts are that I really like the finished product, even though in my humble opinion, I didn't exactly make the paintings ugly, but I definitely changed them. I really like the vibe of the page and the limited color scheme. I think it was a good idea in the end that I didn't use the scream or the swing because there honestly wouldn't be enough space on the page. Even though I didn't make it like super ugly per se, I still like the changes in how the whole page looks. And honestly, I wouldn't really want a super ugly page in my book, but I guess if you're doing this by like art standards, I guess I did kind of make them ugly. So yeah. So the next page says, create additions, add to these circles. So I really struggled with coming up with ideas for this page, partially because I didn't want to simply draw something circular using the circles, if that makes sense. So anyways, after deliberating for a long time, I started sketching faces in the circles. So I came up with the idea of having faces in each circle, and the circle is kind of like a frame around the picture. I decided to do a different face and a different frame for each circle. So I tried drawing different ethnicities and ages and genders because I usually just default to a pretty young girl. If my Instagram is any hint to that, go check it out at JellOV. Okay, anyways, back to the video. So then I started drawing more circles, and you could really tell that I was struggling to come up with different frame ideas. I think there's more than two that have like plants or flowers involved with them. So I then continued drawing more faces, and then after I had finished all the circles, I started outlining, which honestly kind of sucked. My circles are not very circular. So I started coloring with, you guessed it, a limited color scheme. And I used colored pencils for this. So I wanted to do a pink, turquoise, and yellow color scheme. It's like almost like primary colors, but not really. I wanted each circle to be one color, if that makes any sense. So I wanted to like shade the face, the background, and the frame with the same color. Then I outlined around all the circles with the colored pencils. So in the circle around the instructions, I used all the colors and I had them like fade into each other. I did a darker outline around each of the frames with a black colored pencils. Let me tell you, my hand was hurting so much. I honestly should have just used like a black pen or something because my hand is weak. It was dead, dying, and going insane from all the pressure that I was putting on to make that outline dark. So finally, after I killed my hand, I outlined the frames and circles with the colors. So my final thoughts are that I really like the finished product and the limited color scheme. I honestly don't have much to say about this page. I think I already said all that I wanted to say. So yeah, that's this one. So the next page says, create a status. I'm feeling, and then it gives you space in a speech bubble to write down what you're feeling. There's like a theme of like being a rebel in these pages. I don't know what's happening, but I wrote not in the mood for what I was feeling. What I meant by this was that I was not in the mood to write about how I was feeling. Was that a cop-out? Yes, definitely. So I started sketching a bunch of different expressions on a separate piece of paper. I chose to do this since I didn't really want to talk about what I was thinking, so may as well practice exaggerating expressions if I'm gonna be here. I used blue and purple gel pens to start to outline. Say it with me, kids. Limited color scheme. I did want a limited color scheme of only using blue and purple on this page. I tried to go for like a semi-realistic look. It's not super realistic, but I tried a little bit harder to go for realism than some of my more cartoony pages. With the gel pens, I added blush and some more details with a different color like magenta or purple usually. I used colored pencils to also add a little bit more detail, and then I used them to also create a color outline around it. I thought the page looked pretty good, but of course I couldn't stop myself and had to do a bigger outline around it with Crayola Super Tips. I used purple, blue, and then a more grayish blue. After I had finished the outline, I glued it in, and then I outlined not in the mood with my paint markers. This whole page was basically asking you to talk about what's on your mind, and I just did a whole pivot U-turn around that. Like that day, I was just feeling not in the mood to share what I was thinking. And I think that's fine and completely important to have some privacy online. I don't know why I got so preachy about this and rambly, but whatever. Maybe just cut this out. Okay, anyways. Thanks for watching this episode. If you made it this far, I want to give you a little virtual hug and pat on the back for sticking through this video. My Insta is Jalofi. If you like digital art, it would be nice if you could check it out. On the screen right now, there's 2 videos that you can click on, and you can also subscribe if you want to see more Create This Book episodes. That's it, folks. Bye!